Good afternoon, everyone, from Independence High School here in Columbus. Welcome to our Facebook Live Week 12 edition. We're previewing the regional semifinals on Wednesday this week instead of the usual Thursday. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, Ulrey, and our guest to begin the show is the head coach of the Independence 76ers, Maurice Douglas. Coach, heading into the Heart League game. First off, good to have you here.
Right, thank you for having us.
Need to be here, and I mean, you're heading into a big game against Heart League this week. What's been going so well for you guys to put together a run now into the second round of the playoffs here, 10-1 overall?
Yeah, I think our kids are just playing. They're playing really well. They're taking it 1 week at a time, like we teach them to, and they're just executing. And that's what you have to do at this stage of the season. And they're following instructions. So here they are.
Okay. You guys are in the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Haven't won a playoff game since 2003 until last week. I mean, this has got to feel like a great breakthrough for your program. What's been some of the reasons that you've finally been able to get this team to this level this year?
Well, it's a good experience for them, and I really think the thing that we're doing well. We have some assistant coaches that are really working hard and doing the things that we've always wanted to do. We've always had a pretty good offense. We're playing a lot better defense this year, and that's a testament to our assistant coaches. They're just doing a great job, and that's kind of gotten us over the hump.
And to follow up on that a little bit, I mean, that seemed like a big thing at the end of the Walnut Ridge game. But I think you had the final 22 points.
Absolutely.
What went so well for you there? Was that did you do things that really you've been doing well all year?
We've always been a great running team, and the thing that we're trying to do is stay in the game as long as we can. And towards the end of the game, if we're there and we can run the football well, those are the things that it takes to win. And in the Walnut Ridge game, we were running the football well at the end, and we were able to keep them off the field with their explosive offense.
Okay. This is the seventh time for this program in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. What's it been like, not only to get that city championship, but also for the school? I imagine it's got to be something pretty exciting here for them.
Yeah, everybody's proud. Everybody's excited to be back. As you mentioned, we haven't been there since 2008, and before that, 2003, we won our playoff game with Eric Hall and all those great players back then. Yeah. So DeMonte Taylor and Chad Douglas and guys like that. It's really been nice to see a new wave of young people be able to pick up that banner that we're proud of. We've been one game away from the state playoffs 3 out of the last 5 years, so we felt like we've been playing some pretty good football. We just haven't been able to get over that hump, and they've been able to do it this year.
Well, you get a matchup against a team that's won back-to-back state titles. They're in Division III this year. What's some of your thoughts about maybe the keys in some of this matchup?
Well, so you guys hit me with the good news at the beginning. We're in the state playoffs, and there's some bad news there. We're up against the two-time Division IV defending state champion. The big thing we're going to have to do is be able to match their intensity. You don't become a championship program like that without a great deal of intensity, and they bring that. Watching film, they're super fast, and you can see they're tough, and we're just going to have to be able to match that, or we're not going to do very well Friday night.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming over and hanging out with us for a few minutes. Good luck against the Hawks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maurice Douglas, coach of the Independence 76ers, starting off the program here. 7th time in the playoffs. I think I mentioned last week the first was in 1994 when I was a junior here.
That's
we were
right.
one game away my sophomore year, but it might have been a good thing we didn't make it because only 4 teams got in those days. St. Mary's Memorial was in that region.
You're secretly beaming with some pride.
It's kind of neat. It really is. I mean, we were so close that year, and I guess that's probably a good thing we didn't get in because St. Mary's was in the region, and they were very, very good in those days.
That's right.
And might not have gone well. We'll see if it goes better. I mean, they beat Jackson, soundly last Friday, and this is one of the good stories of the season, I think, coming out of a very competitive division, the City League South.
And Jackson was a team that's been to the playoffs a lot. I mean, and I figured maybe it'd be a lot closer of a game than that. So Independence going out and getting a win over a quality program like that, I think that speaks volumes for, like you said, about the City South and how far this program's come. He mentioned DeMonte Taylor and Chad Douglas. Those kind of are the 2 best players on the team probably. DeMonte has had an incredible season. When I was looking at some of his stats, impressed me. I mean, he's rushed for over 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns, but he's also caught lots of passes. He's their punter. He plays defense. He's kind of, one of these do-everything guys that you gotta love having in your program.
It was 238 yards and a couple touchdowns, I think, against Jackson last week for him. Their quarterback seems like, I keep hearing the name Keontae Blow. He's been a good quarterback for them all year, it seems like. as far as what you know, is he kind of a multi-threat guy?
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
he,
absolutely. Yeah, he's rushed for, I believe, more than 10 touchdowns. And I know Coach Douglas has been impressed with his ability when he's in the game to make some right calls and be able to be creative out there. And that's going to be really important because, Hartley is going to come out there. They've got a great linebacker core with Maximus Steinecker, and you got Alexander Blackman, and some of these guys. They're extremely deep. They're very well coached. We all know that, and they are not going to be intimidated by a running back who's rushed for 2,000 yards. So
this is a team that's won 10 consecutive games since that opening loss to Toledo Central Catholic. There, I mean, that's we talked back in week 1. I mean, what a way to start the season, and they've just seemed to have been kept picking up steam ever since.
Yeah, and I think they've really improved. I mean, that's a type of game that's only going to make you better, and they realize that. So.
Well, among the many showdowns this week, they're kind of all showdowns at this point. Division I, Region 3. I personally have thought these are the 2 best teams in the area all season, and we're going to see who comes out of it. Hilliard-Bradley, which is 11-0, they're the 2 seed in Region 3. Pickering and Central is the number 3 seed. They are 10-1. Should be a fun one Friday night at DeSales when these two square off. Kind of a regional feel, or regional final feel kind of game for a semifinal.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. One thing, I was looking at the story that we have on our website this week, thisweeksports.com. One of the things that Coach Purpura said is they're big up front. They're much bigger than us. That's going to be a real key factor in this matchup, I think. Will Bradley be able to get their athletes, because we know they've got a lot of them, with having so many wide receivers that are talented, and Josh Stewart has had an exceptional season for them. Will they be able to get these guys in the kind of spaces that they want? And that's never an easy task because Pickering Central is not only big, but they've got the Division I District Defensive Player of the Year at safety in Xavier Henderson, and they're getting healthier. I mean, they got Jalen Mitchell at cornerback, and yeah, it's going to be a tough task.
Really a contrast to styles, too. Like you said, Bradley has all those good receivers. They're going to throw the ball around the field. Pick Central strikes me as, they're a team that can kind of ground and pound. I think might have been the phrase that either Scott Hennon used in the story, or maybe Jay Jarrod or Mike Purpura, one of those two that were quoted, said. That's another thing that really strikes me is just that big contrast between those two teams.
Pickerington Central in a way is kind of old-fashioned in the way that and I don't mean that in a negative way at all, because in Ohio you got to run the ball well to win a lot of times. So they have kind of let's move the ball on the ground, and then every once in a while they think, we're going to catch you with a surprise bomb, and a lot of times it works.
Yeah.
So
Central's in 12 years in a row now in the playoffs. Bradley too. Who knows if that's going to play a factor?
That's right
as well.
I mean, and of course we should point out. I mean, Bradley last year was in the playoffs, and they were I believe the number 2 seed, and they got crushed by Pickerington North. So they're probably pretty hungry to turn that around.
Sounds kind of familiar. Pickerington North with another crushing on Friday night. They beat Huber Heights Wayne. I think, I'm sure both of us thought, hey, they've got a pretty good chance. I don't know if I thought they were going to win by double, the points. What was it, 41-21 or 41-20 in that area?
Honestly, it could have been worse, actually. I mean, they could have beat them by more.
Yeah?
They really could have. I mean, they pretty much were in control almost the entire game. Mm-hmm. And, they're in a game this week against Centerville. They lost them 27-26 earlier this season. So obviously, I mean, it's coin flip type of game. They could have won that game easily. I mean, they missed an extra point. Centerville got a late field goal to win it. So that's a game that could have gone either way. And you'd have to think that maybe that could be a positive for Pickerington North. I mean, that's going to make them a little hungrier. And,
well, they know what's coming at them too. Alec Brandon was somebody that seemed to stand out in your preview. Nate Hillrich, I think that might have been the first guy that he mentioned. I'm guessing that you talked to him after the game last week against Wayne. They've got some other playmakers too. It looks like, including a defensive lineman who might end up being a future teammate of Tyler Potts if both of them go to Ball State and Sam Vance.
That's right. One thing when I was looking at some of the stats in this game, they really are kind of similar offensively in what makes them strong. I mean, they've both got a great wide receiver. Pickerington North's got Ty Wiley's been exceptional this year. Their quarterbacks have both been very elusive. I mean, Jimmy Wyrick has been a little bit more elusive than Alec. I mean, he's thrown for 29 touchdowns, and he's also been very dangerous on when he starts running the ball. So
we'll see what happens, and that means that it could be a Region 3 final between Pickerington Central and Pickerington North if both those games go that way next Friday night, and what a rematch that would be if it indeed comes to pass. Up north now into Region 2, and the first one up there is Olentangy Liberty, the number 2 seed, taking on number 6 Gahanna. Gahanna coming off a dramatic victory, ending a great story that was Olentangy Orange's season, but Gahanna wins, and they're trying to taste some playoff success that they haven't had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, this might sound surprising, but Gahanna has never won more than one playoff game in a season in their program history. They've been to a state championship game, but that was back in 1976 when you only had to win one game to make it to the championship game. Things are so much different than back then. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to come into this game. They're going to be hungry to try and build on what they did last week. And one thing that's going to be tough is Liberty's defense is really good, and they've continued to get better as the season's gone on. They've only given up an average of 15.2 points since their 42-0 loss to Pickerington North. So this is going to be a tough challenge.
Johnny Wiseman with 6 interceptions to lead that. The thing that every time I read about Liberty, not covering them on a daily basis like you, but they just seem so balanced. That's the word that I just keep coming back to when I think about the kind of season they've been able to put together.
As far as offense,
and defense.
Yeah, offense, yeah, that's right. And I think offensively, I think they're getting better as the season's gone on. With Mitchell Oakley has gotten he's gotten a lot more consistent. He had a really good game last week. And Gahanna has been giving up a lot of points.
Exactly. Yeah, that was kind of the next thought on my mind. I think 35.8 points the last 4 weeks.
And a lot of that is they're playing good teams.
Yes.
So, is that an indicator that we could have a high scoring game? That seems plausible.
I bet on that.
And a lot of times in those type of games, that maybe that could bode well for Gahanna. So it's kind of hard to really predict that one.
Well, the winner of that game will face the winner of the number 5 seed, the Olentangy Braves, heading north, and I mean way north, all the way to Tiffin, Columbian, to take on the top seed of Toledo Whitmer Panthers. Whitmer is 11-0. Olentangy coming off I should say both of these teams are coming off dramatic wins. Right. Talking about Olentangy first, of course, they came from 10 points down on 3 separate occasions to beat Dublin Kaufman last week, 28-24.
What a roller coaster ride they've been on this year.
But the whole, the game was like their season almost, up and back. That was, I'm not going to say it surprised me, but boy, what a ball game between those two last Friday.
And I guess the good side of that is that they're still playing. So maybe there's been some ups and downs, but they've continued to figure out ways to get through. So this is going to be I think it's reasonable to say it's going to be their toughest task to date. I mean, Whitmer did have a really tight opening playoff game
against Lorraine.
Well, that seemed really strange. I mean, didn't they scored 3 touchdowns on fumble recoveries or something? I mean, it
was a quirky game from what I heard. I mean, and they were up 8 late, and Lorraine, which knocked Olentangy out of the playoffs last year. Mark Solis actually used to coach Lorraine. Came back to tie the ball game, and then Whitmer goes down and gets a field goal as time expires to win. And Coach Solis was saying they're nothing like the team that they faced 2 years ago,
right,
when Jacob Bell kicked a 52-yard field goal at the buzzer at Tiffin Columbian to win that game. He said it's nothing like that, so it's not going to be like a deja vu sort of thing. But I think people seem to perceive Olentangy as the underdog coming into this one.
Well, I was just going to say, I think maybe 2 years ago, Olentangy would have been low. I think they were the favorite in that one. And this one, maybe people are thinking that they're a little bit of an underdog, but it doesn't mean they're not going to win.
Oh, absolutely. And if both Olentangy schools win, that also will be a rematch of, guess what, Week 8, just like the Pickerington schools, that mammoth week that we were talking about back at the very beginning of the season. Now coming down into Division 2, Region 7, the big rival of these independent 76ers is the Walnut Ridge Scots, or at least one of them, and they play New Albany over at Westerville South.
Right.
That's an interesting one. New Albany pulled out a shootout, maybe oddly enough on a fumble recovery for a touchdown to beat Whitehall last week. Walnut Ridge was more of the grinded out win against Canal Winchester.
Right, and Walnut Ridge, I think that was a good game for them to get their footing in. Maybe it helps you get the number 1 seed. You got a home game. They can that looked a lot more like a Walnut Ridge game, 27-14. That's when they were playing really well earlier in the season. That was the type of games that they were winning. So. Now they're going to have to face a New Albany team that's a veteran team, it's been in the playoffs a lot, and New Albany's not. they're a well-coached team, and they seem to be getting better.
Yeah. I mean, this is a sign of a good team if you're peaking at this time of the year, and just to pull out that game the way they did. Micaiah Burton, he's been their big running back all year, and perhaps no performance bigger than Friday night. It was 200 yards exactly on 20 carries and 3 touchdowns. And, of course, we mentioned Brody White with the fumble recovery for a touchdown with 58 seconds to go in that ball game to lift the Eagles. They have a good draw. They got by Whitehall. Now they've got a team that they feel like they've got a pretty good chance against in Walnut Ridge. Sort of interesting, just the way that shakes out, I think.
Yeah, and with, like we said, with Walnut Ridge, I mean, they're the #1 seed. I mean, but I'm not sure on paper that they would be considered a huge favorite here. I think it ought to be a pretty close game.
Yeah. Well, and the winner of that game will play Ashland or Massillon, Washington in the regional semifinal, which would probably be in the Mansfield area realistically, or somewhere up there next week. Heading south now, this game will be at Chillicothe, Division 5, Region 19 Academy against Wheelersburg. That some guy picked Wheelersburg to lose last week, and they only beat Reedy 34-0. So, and that's how it goes. But boy, this is a team. The thing that stands out to me, they haven't had a close game all year. Their closest was 24 points over Jackson, the team that Independence beat last week. Every one of their other games have been decided by 31 points or more, most of them over 40 points.
Well, one thing, I talked to Coach Brian Cross on Saturday for Reedy last week, the day after they lost 34-0. But actually they had only given up 28 points, and Wheelersburg, I believe, got a defensive touchdown. So he was actually pretty happy with the fact they only gave up 28 points. I mean, he felt like that says something right there about how good they really are.
Their quarterback, Trent Salyers, has 2,836 career yards passing, and Academy's playoff win, congratulations to them, was their first one since 2006.
That's right.
When they beat Nelsonville York last week. 2 more games to mention quickly, and we're going to get out of here. And this is in Division 5, Region 19. The other semifinal is 9-2 Johnstown against 10-1 Portsmouth West. That will be at Chillicothe St. Trace. And then the final game involving an area team this week, Licking Valley trying to go to 12-0. They have New Concord John Glenn, and that game's out at Zanesville.
Those two teams actually played a common opponent, Thornville Sheridan, and they both beat them by, Valley beat them 29-26, and John Glenn beat them 30-26. So ought to be a great game.
We'll see how that happens. And next week, we're going to be down even further. We could have some very intriguing matchups to be talking about for the regional. Well, of course they will be, because it's the regional finals. And we will let you know over the weekend where we will be heading back to next Thursday here on our Facebook Live presentation. For Jarrod, Ulrey, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.